Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Thank you, colleagues. The committee received a chronology of events from CSE. In the chronology, it states that CSIS issued a briefing on the Beijing-directed APT-31 cyber attack to 35 Government of Canada clients as early as November of 2021. I asked the director of CSIS who received this briefing. He has undertaken to provide this committee with a list, but he did say that as a general rule, quote, such a product would indeed be distributed to the PCO, and that would include the National Security and Intelligence Advisor, end of quote, of that of the Prime Minister. So what does it say to you about the fact that as early as November 2021, 35 Government of Canada clients, including likely the Prime Minister's own department, the PCO, were briefed about this cyber attack, but you and every other member of Parliament who was the target was kept in the dark? Whoever wishes to.
Happy to respond to that. I think Mr. Cooper, you've hit the core issue. We were not on the distribution list, shall we say, and you know, the protocols at that time, 2 years ago, are frankly found to be inadequate, and I'm hoping that this committee will actually address that issue, because it's not acceptable that we are in the dark for the last 2 years.
I'll just jump in on this. So you have, you know, information shared to government officials, you know, National Security Advisor, who, you know, as we read in the NSCOP report, withheld information from people that should be informed. That information should have been shared with us as individuals as a matter of attack. I think that when you look at the culture that exists within the Government of Canada on how they classify information, how they share information, especially when it comes down to foreign intimidation, and this APT-31 is nothing more than foreign intimidation again, that we have to be taking new protocols and how we deal with it. And so the National Security Advisor has to be a lot more aggressive in making sure that that information percolates through the system, and not just to the Prime Minister, but in this situation where it's involving members of Parliament, caucuses, you know, whether it's through caucus leaders and caucus chairs, that information should be distributed or individuals contacted directly. And I think that, you know, we need to make sure that we don't repeat these mistakes again. And I think that is paramount to our ability to do our jobs.
Janice?
I agree with what my colleagues have said, and thank you for an important question, Mr. Cooper. Just one point to add in terms of the dissemination of information. In the previous hearings with previous witnesses, we have tried to get at what exact information was disseminated, in particular what information was disseminated to House of Commons administration, because the government's communication on this has said, well, the information, implying all the information, was given to House of Commons administration, and I pursued this matter with Ms. Xavier, the from CSE, and I asked her, was House of Commons administration informed that the source of the threat was APT-31? And she chose her words very carefully, and I didn't actually notice what she was doing until I read the testimony over afterwards. Because she said in response to one of my questions, Mr. Chair, as part of the various meetings and the reports that we provided, we were able to share with the House of Commons IT security staff what we believed at the time to be the originating source of the threat. But then I followed up and said, okay, so you shared with them that it was APT-31. And then at that point, she refused to answer. She said we should go in camera and various other points. So she said she shared what they thought was the source of the threat, but she never actually said that they shared that the source of the threat was APT-31. So there are big questions, and I think there's a little bit of sleight of hand being attempted by officials about what information was actually shared, especially with House of Commons administration.
For that, and while I completely agree with Mr. McKay that we need to look at solutions to ensure that what happened doesn't happen again, there does have to be some level of accountability. And to that end, the government has essentially washed its hands clean insofar as they have tried to place the blame squarely on House of Commons administration. And then when we begin to probe House of Commons administration, it seems to have fallen all on House of Commons IT, and yet 35 Government of Canada clients, including likely the Prime Minister's Department, the PCO, were briefed in November of 2021. That's more than a year and a half before you were finally briefed, thanks to the FBI. So again, the notion that it should be left to IT services that was dealing with a technical matter of ensuring the integrity of IT systems in the House of Commons be left to them to inform members of Parliament seems to be completely untenable. Wouldn't you agree? And shouldn't there be some level of responsibility if, in fact, the PCO, the National Security and Intelligence Advisor, were informed in November of 2021 and said nothing and did nothing for a year and a half and would not have done anything but for the FBI?
Mr. Cooper, unfortunately, that's all the time. So certainly in the next round, you're welcome to
get
raise that.
a simple answer.
Unfortunately, your preamble...
Well, I think it's very interesting, but you're cutting me off on that important point.
I'm not cutting you off, sir. I'm simply applying the rules fairly. You will have another opportunity to ask questions to our colleagues.